Hey, welcome into another Conquer Corona episode, and this one is definitely a special one. We've got Jasper Rivers on the call with us, and if you have not seen Jasper's story, Jasper already has a big-time podcast called Get Paid for Your Pad, which is also the name of his book. And, he is kind of, aside from Brian Page, I kind of feel like you're one of the go-to guys for the short-term rental industry, Jasper. So we're very honored to have you on the call, and especially during this really wild and crazy time. We're going to get into what you have figured out for how to conquer the coronavirus and to survive and thrive during this time. But I, first of all, really want to know, like, from an Airbnb standpoint, from a short-term rental standpoint, when this thing came out, like, what was your initial reaction? And then, how did it really impact your business?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it, and I love the name that you're using, Conquer Corona. That's genius, man. Love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. It's funny because I actually sent out an email to my list kind of right before this whole thing collapsed, talking about how I felt like there was a lot of risk going on right now, just not just with the virus, but also the fact that we've been in this economic uptrend for so long. I vividly remembered the financial crisis as I was a trader, so I was in the middle of it. And now and then suddenly within a few days, like, just things just crashed like crazy. I mean, nothing I was imagining. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's completely changed the whole industry right now, right? Because people have completely stopped traveling. People have stopped going on holidays. And so the people that are looking for accommodation right now are completely different people than, like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Right. So what the effect it's had on my personal business, I mean, like it's almost completely collapsed. I'm starting to get some bookings. And I think it's kind of the same story across the board, except for some remote markets. For example, the Hamptons right now, there's a ton of people fleeing New York City and they want to go to the Hamptons and do a staycation there, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's some markets where people are not being affected. But my places like Colombia shuts borders, so they're not even allowed to stay anywhere. We're not allowed to accept bookings for less than 14 days actually. But I just got a booking for 14 days, so that was great.
Nice.
But it took me some back and forth with communication and stuff to get that booking. But yeah, it's affected the whole industry big time, right?
Yeah. Well, and you and I can really, share some stories here of what we're experiencing. But I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me, what I'm experiencing right now is we're not getting those bookings in the future. We're getting a lot of the last minute bookings, which for us in our business is the cheapest booking. So, if our trend continues to go where we're just getting last minute bookings and that's all we're relying on, I feel like I'm going to continue to have a lot more vacancies and a lot more just like, hey, we're just covering our expenses basically for the month. So are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the people that do see success right now in terms of occupancy, because I think right now the focus has to be on occupancy, right? And make as much, get your occupancy up and make as much of your costs back. Right now, like, there's very few markets where people making decent profits. So it's all about how do we make enough to cover our rents, cover our mortgages, cover our expenses, or at least cover part of the mortgages and the rents. So I think the best thing you can do is number one is really adjust your prices and focus on getting people into your places, right? And number two is we have to target a different audience, right? It's the people that live nearby. People are not looking forward to jumping on a plane right now, if there's even flights, right? So we're looking at some of the things that we are doing right now is, we're looking at like travel nurse companies, like how do you get in touch with them, right? Because we do see a lot of bookings coming from nurses that are that need to be in a different city right now, and they need accommodation for a couple months. Now these Airbnbs, they weren't able to afford those at the higher prices when when you're booking $200 a night um, on travelers, to vacationers. Like, you're not going to rent it out for 2,000 a month to a nurse, right? But right now everyone is happy to accommodate whoever needs the help, right? And especially the travel nurses, because they're helping to prevent or to maintain this crisis, right? Or to get over this crisis by maintaining the spread of the virus and caring for patients and stuff. So we see a lot of hosts right now that are offering really good deals to the nurses. But the question is, how do you market to them? So you want to, how do you adjust your listing title? How do you stand out and focus on marketing to their needs? And how do you get in touch with the companies, et cetera?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess let's dive a little bit into that. We don't have a ton of time, but I am interested in just that right there. Do you think it's nurses for all markets? Do you think that you need to look based on your market? And then if you're going to be, adjusting exactly who you are marketing to, what are some tips on how you can start to attract those people? Because, in Airbnb, we've been used to just, hey, you throw up a listing as long as it looks good and you've got everything detailed and you've got the reviews, you're going to get booked. Now it's like, hey, I actually have to be a little bit of a better marketer to get the types of
Yeah,
people that I'm looking for. So just some tips on that would be
exactly.
great.
Yeah, exactly. It's like right now, being an Airbnb business owner, you're an actual entrepreneur right now. You know what I mean? Because like you said, when I started Airbnb, I didn't feel like an entrepreneur. I just created a listing and boom, bookings started coming in. Right? I didn't have to do all the hustling that you normally have to do as an entrepreneur to start up a business. Right now we have to understand that we have to hustle. We have to not just think outside of the box. We have to break that box open and go completely outside of it and do whatever we can to attract bookings, right? So it's not just the travel nurses, right? If you live near a hospital, then that is your audience, but it could also be students who are stranded. Right? A lot of campuses are closing down. If you're near a university, that could be your audience, right? A lot of people, they want to do like staycations, right? People want to move away from the bigger cities and they want to be somewhere more isolated, right? For obvious reasons. There's people, well, for example, the booking I got now for my place in Colombia, it's somebody who wants to be close to his grandmother. And his grandmother happens to live near where my place is. And so he just wants to camp out there. He doesn't want to go stay with his grandmother because he doesn't want to pass on the virus, but he wants to be nearby in case she needs help, right? So there's people that are looking for places. The question is, how do you attract those people? And so my best piece of advice is, figure out who in your market is looking for accommodation right now. Go on Craigslist, ask on Facebook, social media, ask your personal network, just ask around, right? And let people know, hey, I'm offering a steal right now, right? Let them know you're offering 50% off for monthly, 2 monthly stays, 2 weekly stays. Figure out who in your market needs accommodation, and then ask yourself what are their needs, right? Just to give you an example, like travel nurses often travel with pets, right? They have a dog or a cat, and so if you're pet friendly, that's something that you want to point out in your listing. If you're catering to travel nurses, right? Perfect travel nurse stay, pet friendly, stuff like that. But really get in the head of your audience and understand what their needs are, and then adjust your entire marketing efforts on Airbnb, on the other platforms, in your title, photos, descriptions, but also go outside of Airbnb and the platforms, right? Because there's not enough demand really on those platforms right now.
Yeah.
So, people that are having success, are people who are really hustling, right? They go to Zillow, they go to Furnished Finders, they go to Craigslist, they go to local supermarkets, put up a note and say, hey, I've got a perfect quarantine place for you.
Yep.
I've got some supplies, whatever their needs are, you have to
Absolutely.
communicate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's pretty much what I'm doing too. I mean, it's been Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist has been where we're getting the most response on things. Are you doing just entire houses, or are you also open to doing room by room and mixing different personalities together?
Yeah, I mean the units I manage aren't really suitable for renting out by the room, except for a boutique hotel I manage in the middle of nowhere in Egypt. But that one is actually not as affected because it's so remote. Um, but um, but that's a strategy that you can definitely try for the larger houses, because the larger homes are a problem right now because people don't want to be with a lot of people in the same home, right? Or at least they don't, if you are going to stay in a larger home, people want to have their own little space. They want, they don't want to travel in a group, right? And that's not, the group travel is not there right now, right? So if you have like a 4 or 5 bedroom home, the chance that you're going to rent that out to a group of like 6 or 8 or 10 people is very, very small, right? And so in that case, I would suggest create a separate listing for each individual room, and see if people want to rent those rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very vocal about it with my audience. I'm pretty much doing month to month to kind of survive during these times on primarily Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, and then I'm putting 14-day minimum stays on my Airbnbs. And honestly, this last week has been very encouraging for the 3 bedroom and above places that I have for just renting by room. I mean, I'm
Mm,
getting really good. I actually just filled 2 places. One at $700 a room, another at $800 a room, and then a master bedroom at $1,000 a month, and that's
mm,
really really solid for what I was expecting. So
yeah.
I think there's a whole new business model that's coming because of this that people are going to be open to if they are being entrepreneurs and trying to find ways to solve this problem. And you have a great piece of advice, but also a great tool to help people with solving their short-term rentals problem or uh, creating some sort of solution right now. Can you just share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, about a week and a half ago, when we realized what are people looking for right now, people need advice to survive. People don't want to grow, expand their business. People just want to know, how do I fill up my space, right? So we kind of dived in and went to our community and asked for feedback from everybody in our community. And all the tips and advice that we gotten, we packed it into a kit, the Corona Survival Kit. It's about 40 pages. We added a whole bunch of resources to it, like swipe email copy to reach out to travel nurses, listing description titles, cleaning procedures, CDC approved cleaning products, checklists, printable things. I mean, you name it. We we have a very creative person in our team who's really good with content, so she put together an entire list of resources. And yeah, if you're interested, you can go to strsurvivalkit.com, and you can buy it. It's $7, so it's pretty affordable. We realized that people don't really want to spend a lot of money right now, so we just figured, create something useful, and we just charge a small price for it.
Perfect. And you said that's strsurvivalkit.com.
Absolutely, STR short term rental survivalkit.com.
Perfect. That's simple enough. So any
Yeah.
last words, just advice to anyone out there that's trying to, again, survive and thrive during these times?
Yeah, well, I'd say the last piece of advice is, because a lot of people are worried about their rents and their mortgages right now. So one piece of advice that I have is, we've seen a lot of people in our community, including ourselves actually, who've had success talking to their landlords and either getting their rent deferred, getting a discount on their rent for this month, for next month, or people are, the landlords are pretty flexible right now because they understand this is a crisis. So if you think you're going to have trouble paying your rent, or even your mortgage, I would recommend speak to your landlords or your lender as soon as possible, because the sooner you have that conversation, I think the more flexible the counterparty is going to be.
Absolutely. And if you own the house, I'll take it one step further. We're trying to get in contact with our mortgage companies, which is very difficult right now. Everyone's calling their mortgage companies, but it sounds like there's a lot of mortgage companies that are very, very open to helping out with giving breaks on mortgages as well right now. So Hey, Jasper, thank you so much for helping us to conquer Corona and survive and thrive during these uncertain times today. We appreciate you as always, man.